The film opens in the city of Philadelphia in the year 2024. The city appears destroyed and in disarray. Initially, we aren't told the cause of this chaos. The scene shifts to 1988. We see Thomas and his wife, Jenny. They are about to be blessed with a child. At this time, Thomas is tasked with checking a location where a strange accident occurred, where suddenly several people were found dead with blood coming out of their noses and ears. Thomas leaves his wife to check the incident at the scene. Thomas is a police officer in Philadelphia. He and his colleague, Maddox, are ordered to visit the site of these unnatural accidents or murders. Upon arriving, Thomas examines the victims at the scene. There, Thomas notices an oddity. Behind the neck of the victims, there are small, unusual holes. He also meets Holt, a detective who is none other than his superior, and also Jenny's brother. Holt advises Thomas not to interfere, but Thomas wants to investigate this strange case. While with Maddox, they receive a call about a similar case to the one they encountered before. However, this time, the female victim is still alive. Upon arriving, Thomas inquires about the entire incident and the characteristics of the person who attacked the woman. The woman explains that a black woman in a blue sweater suddenly attacked her while she was dancing, injecting something behind her neck with a tool. As Holt arrives, he scolds Thomas because this is a detective's job. The woman overhears Holt saying it's dangerous. Suddenly, the woman starts bleeding from her nose and ears and dies instantly. Thanks to the information from the woman, the police finally release a description of the woman who killed the dancer. The police arrest many people believed to be the perpetrator, but they do not find her. While patrolling, Thomas and Maddox accidentally encounter the perpetrator. The perpetrator is a strong and skilled woman, so much so that Thomas and Maddox struggle. Maddox finally finds the woman but fails to capture her, even breaking his leg in the process. Thomas catches up with the woman. Just as he is about to catch her, the woman says something that surprises Thomas. She says, "Hello, Thomas. This is where it happened. Congratulations on the birth of your child." Caught off guard, Thomas then fights with the woman. Then she manages to handcuff Thomas to a chair. The woman says, "See you again." But Thomas quickly uses the woman's tool to stab her leg. Simultaneously, a train passes by, and the woman ultimately dies. After the incident, Thomas is informed that his wife is about to give birth at the hospital. He immediately goes to the hospital to be with his wife. Upon arrival, he comforts his wife, who is about to deliver their child. Anxiously, Thomas awaits the birth of his child. The doctor finally comes out and hands over the newly born child to Thomas. Unexpectedly, his wife Jenny passes away. The scene shifts to the year 1997. Here, Thomas's child, now much older, is seen listening to news on TV about demonstrators demanding the police investigate the death of a black woman who died at the station exactly 9 years ago. That woman is the one who was hit by a train alongside Thomas that night. They claim it was murder since bullets were found in her body. The demonstrators accused the Philadelphia police of racism, alleging that the white police force is biased against black people. At this time, instead of being arrested, Thomas is promoted to detective. 9 years have passed, and we see an older Thomas on his daughter Amy's birthday. They have breakfast together, and Thomas gives his daughter a bracelet as a gift. They both visit Jenny's grave. Just as they are about to leave, Thomas receives a call from his boss saying the case from 9 years ago has happened again. Thomas immediately goes to the crime scene. There, he meets Maddox, who is still a police officer. Thomas examines the body of a man who died bleeding, with a small hole in the back of his neck. They're approached by Holt, who is now a lieutenant. While talking, they are called over by a police officer who wants to show them footage of someone suspected to be the perpetrator. Thomas sees the footage, and it looks exactly like the woman from before. Back at his office, Thomas and Maddox review the evidence from the case 9 years ago. He asks his colleague to examine a key left by the perpetrator. Meanwhile, more victims fall. Thomas and Maddox often discuss the case. Thomas is doubtful. Is it really the same woman? But he is puzzled because the recording clearly shows the same distinctive features. Even the scar on her hand, which was not released to the media at that time. A colleague arrives and informs them about the key. It turns out that the key was made in 1996, which is baffling since how could she have a key made in 96 in the year 88? His colleague also mentions that the key is only produced in a specific aircraft factory. Thomas and Maddox immediately go there. However, they are intercepted by a man named Naveen Rao, who claims to be a physicist. Rao tries to explain his theory about the case Thomas is handling. He says the killer appears from the closest point between the Earth and the Moon, a cycle spanning 9 years. But Thomas and Maddox don't believe him. They arrive at the place, but Maddox does not enter, leaving only Thomas inside. Thomas meets a man there and inquires about the key and if a black girl wearing a blue sweater had come by. The man appears nervous, realizing something is wrong. He then asks the man to write down a map of the place, but instead the man draws an arrow pointing to a woman holding a weapon. It turns out to be the same woman who was hit by the train years ago. Thomas is shocked to see that she is indeed still alive. The woman instructs the man to tie Thomas's hands, but with his quick thinking, Thomas activates his phone, which connects to Maddox outside. Hearing this, Maddox immediately calls the police force and heads inside. Because he appeared suddenly, the woman accidentally shot Maddox in the head, killing him instantly. Seeing this, Thomas was shocked and tried to approach Maddox. The police arrived, but the woman and Thomas were already prepared to flee in a stolen plane. On the plane, the woman asked Thomas not to chase her anymore because she had her reasons, which were to save many people. Thomas was upset because she had killed Maddox. The woman explained that it was an accident. Thomas asked, "How can you be alive again?" The woman answered, "Every 9 years when the moon sets I can return, but only temporarily." When he asked again, the woman refused to answer and told Thomas to just be quiet. But Thomas refused to stay silent. As a result, Thomas was pushed out of the plane. Fortunately for Thomas, he fell into the ocean and then tried to reach a nearby island. However, on the island, he saw the wreckage of the plane that had just crashed and was burning, the plane he had been on. He searched for the woman, but found nothing. In the morning, Holt and the police arrived. Holt scolded Thomas, but also sympathized with Maddox's death. Thomas said there was no need to look for her anymore because she had disappeared. Holt asked, "What do you mean?" Thomas replied, "Because she comes from the future." The scene shifts to the year 2006. Thomas is seen digging a grave for someone named Harold Nowak, who died in 1988. Thomas took a photo of the skull. In the car, Thomas read a book about the moon and a newspaper about the disappearance of physicist Naveen Rao. The next day, Thomas went to Harold's house. He met Harold's wife and asked about Harold's death from a drug overdose. His wife informed him that Harold had been the founder of a particular movement against the global elite. Thomas got notes made by Harold Nowak. In the notes, there was a name, Ezra Dousman. Thomas checked the data for people who died in '88. He found that Ezra Dousman was the person killed by the mysterious woman. He then went to meet Holt. Thomas showed his findings to Holt, explaining that we missed a person who died in '88. Thomas assumed that Harold was the leader of a particular militant column. They were trying to create a real American movement and destroy this country by making bombs. Thomas showed Holt the notes. In the notes, Harold had written 4 names, 2 of whom were found dead in '97 and 2 in '88, which means they were related. They were a radical group planning something big. The injection used by the woman was an advanced way to kill someone from a distance. Thomas theorized that it could be triggered from the future. Holt heard this and did not believe it. He then suggested Thomas go to a psychiatrist because he thought Thomas was beginning to go insane. In short, Thomas stole Holt's wallet to call the police and ask for someone's address. He went to the address of someone in Harold Nowak's notes. Upon arriving there, he saw that the person was already dead, with a lot of blood in his ears and nose. Apparently, it was the work of the mysterious woman. Thomas immediately chased her. The woman reached the beach and entered a small hole. Thomas followed her, and after arriving, Thomas was shocked to see the woman inside a water-filled tube. He tried to open the tube, but couldn't. Thomas said, "See you again," and then the woman disappeared. As he tried to escape the hole, Holt and the police were there to capture him. Struggling, Thomas claimed he had shot her hand, but it would take another 9 years. Thomas believed if he had succeeded in killing that woman, his wife Jenny wouldn't have died then. But from atop the cliff, Rao was watching them. The scene shifts to 2015, showing Rao conducting experiments on 3 pigs by injecting them with a device, suddenly killing them, blood pouring from their eyes and ears. This method was exactly the same as the murders of the mysterious woman in 88 and 97. However, his subordinates pointed out someone on the beach. Seeing this, Rao knew it was Thomas. Since then, Thomas had been living aimlessly, like a disheveled vagrant. Since meeting that mysterious woman, his life had been a mess. He dedicated his life to killing her. Suddenly, Amy called Thomas, soon to give birth to a child. She wanted her father there at the birth. Suddenly, from behind, Thomas was kidnapped. He was in a car, along with some of the dead pigs. There was a man driving. It turned out to be Rao. Thomas said, "You run from me," Rao replied, "because you are the only one who knows my ambition." Thomas pleaded to be released, or else the woman would continue to kill. Here Rao said, if that was indeed the plan, changing the future required sacrifices. Rao explained thanks to Thomas he knew the woman was not a murderer but a savior. For years he had researched the injection device she used, until he finally succeeded. Thomas continued to deny it. But here Rao explained to Thomas that he could erase the American Civil War in the future. If we could kill the root of future problems, then it was the right thing to do. And that's what the mysterious woman did. He won't let Thomas to stop it. Caught off guard, Thomas choked him, causing the car to crash into a tree. Thomas eventually got away. The next morning, the woman appeared from the same place, near the beach. Surprisingly, Thomas was already there, pointing a gun at her. This was the moment Thomas had waited decades for. Thomas said, "If I kill you, then you can't kill again." Here the woman explained that what she did was for the future of the world. As Thomas was about to shoot, the woman said that what she did was influenced by Thomas. She relied heavily on Thomas. Even Thomas was the one who taught her a lot. Thomas was a bit surprised, but the woman showed him her mother's bracelet. Apparently, the mysterious woman was Amy's daughter from the future. The woman said, "It's okay, it's over." Thomas was really confused and found it hard to believe. Thomas asked if he had killed her 27 years ago and he saw her die. "You have to come back," the woman replied. "If that happened, time travel can only go one way. I can't come back until my mission is complete. If you had stopped me on this beach from the start, then I would still die." Hearing this, Thomas cried, and the woman told Thomas to go home, saying, "Take care of Mom and me." It was then shown that Rao had successfully built his research company. There was Thomas's granddaughter named Raya. Here it was explained why the world was destroyed in 2024. At 9 years old, Raya saw a man park truck full of explosives in the city center. Then Raya saw the truck explode, killing 11,000 people that day. After that, millions died in a civil war. Everyone was full of anger and hatred. They were like monsters. Even ordinary humans were annihilated one by one. People were causing even greater division, but she knew how to stop it. She found a way to thwart this destruction. She went back in time to erase the idea of the person who created this destruction. Then the movie ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.